Welcome, everyone. It is our pleasure today to welcome all our guests to the Polis Institute graduation ceremony of 2022. For our students completing their 1-year and 2-year programs. We would like to welcome Professor Christophe Rico, the Polis Institute Dean, our staff, teachers, and guests and graduates. Please let us begin with the lecture by Professor Christophe, The Labyrinth Myth and Symbol. Please, Professor.
Thank you so much, Dalia. Could you just put it? So, welcome everybody. It's always a great pleasure to, do you hear me well? Yes? It's always a great pleasure to come to this date of this time of the year to have the graduation party. I have to say that the first time we had, the first promotion we had, I didn't even think about a graduation party because it's not at all common in France. But the students really were demanding that there would be a graduation party. So I thought, well, let us have it. And I've seen that from year to year, it is becoming each time more festive and solemn. So it's the opportunity. At the end, I have come to realize that it is good to have this kind of party because it's the opportunity to celebrate, first of all what we have been living for a year, and to thank everybody for all what each one has done. So following the tradition, I will start with a small lecture on the labyrinth, myth, and symbol. So we will talk about the characters that are involved in the labyrinth. I will retell the story for all those who don't know it well. And then we will talk about the symbolism of the labyrinth, its ambivalence, and the medieval reception. So, first of all, we have architect and craftsman in ancient Athens. And he was seen as a symbol of wisdom, knowledge, and power. He is the father of Icarus, and he is the uncle of Perdix, a young man who was called Perdix. Daedalus is widely praised as an inventor, as an artist, and as an architect. So according to Apollodorus, Daedalus was so proud of his achievements that he could not bear the idea of a rival. His sister had placed her son Perdix under his charge to be taught the mechanical arts as an apprentice. But the nephew showed striking evidence of ingenuity. And finding the spine of a fish on the seashore, he took a piece of iron and notched it on the edge, and thus invented the saw. And he put two pieces of iron together, connecting them at one end with a rivet and sharpening the other end, and he made a pair of compasses. That was the work of Perdix. And so here you see a very beautiful plate with the death of Perdix, because Daedalus was so envious of his nephew's accomplishments that he attempted to murder him throwing him down from the Acropolis in Athens. But Athena, the goddess, saved his nephew and turned him into a partridge. There, this is the name of a partridge in Greek. So, tried and convicted for these murder attempts, Daedalus had to leave Athens and he fled to Crete, where Minos had just took power. So, we can say already that Daedalus is a symbol. He is the symbol of the delusion of human skill. He is the symbol of envy. When one, instead of being happy for the craft and the skills of other people, that person becomes envious. So we go to Minos, the second character of this long story. Minos, or the delusion of power. According to Apollodorus, Minos had wished to reign over Crete, but his claim was opposed. So he alleged that he had received his kingdom from the gods, and in proof of it, he said that whatever he prayed for would be done. And in sacrificing to Poseidon, he prayed that a bull might appear from the depths, promising to sacrifice that bull when it happens. Poseidon did send him up a fine bull, and Minos obtained the kingdom. But he sent the bull to the herds and sacrificed another bull. Being the first to obtain the dominion of the sea, Minos extended his rule over almost all the islands. But, angry at him for not sacrificing the bull, Poseidon made the animal savage and contrived that Pasiphae should conceive a passion for it. In her love for the bull, she found an accomplice in Daedalus, the architect who had been banished from Athens for murder. Daedalus constructed a wooden cow on wheels, took it, hollowed it out in the inside, and set it in the middle in which the bull used to graze. So here you see a very beautiful painting from the 1st century AD. We do have some paintings from the 1st century AD. This one was found in Pompeii. It's a Roman fresco in the house of the Veti. And here we see Daedalus in front of Pasiphae, and he is showing her the hollow bull, the hollow cow that he had just made. And Pasiphae had to be hidden in that cow. Then Daedalus introduced Pasiphae into it, and the bull came and coupled with it as if it were a real cow. And she gave birth to Asterius, who was called the Minotaur. This monster, because it was a monster, the son of a bull and of a woman, this monster had the face of a bull, but the rest of him was human. And Apollodorus in his Bibliotheca says that Minos, in compliance with certain oracles, shut him up and guarded him in the labyrinth. Now, the labyrinth which Daedalus constructed, oikema en campais polyplokois planon ten exodon. It was a chamber that, with its tangled windings, perplexed the outward way. This is a thing that has been extremely popular throughout the history of Greece. And already in a tablet from Pylos, so imagine the 14th century BC, you in the Archaeological Museum of Athens, you have a depiction of a labyrinth. And here you have a calyx where one can see Pasiphae nursing the infant Minotaur. So you see Minotaur as an infant, as a baby. You see his head He has a bull head, and the rest of the body is the body of a baby. 4th century BC. So, Minos was the delusion of human power, and you see how human power, these thirst for human power, can be completely self-destructive, and it engenders monsters. This is what the myth teaches us: the delusion of human power that can be so self-destructive that it engenders monsters. We come to the third character of this myth, Theseus, the delusion of success and infidelity. So we go on with our story. Pasiphae, the wife of King Minos of Crete, had other children, and the eldest of these was called Androgeus, and he set sail for Athens to take part in the Panathenaic Games, which were held there every 4 years. You had several cities in which there were games every 4 years. Of course, the most well-known are the Olympic Games, but there were many other ones, a few other ones, among them the Panathenaic Games. So being strong and skillful, Androgeus did very well, winning some events outright. And he soon became a proud favorite, much to the resentment of the Palantides, who assassinated him, incurring the wrath of Minos. Here we see in this very beautiful amphora from 480 BC, you see athletes running. It was one of the contests that you had in these games. When King Minos heard what had befallen his son, he ordered the Cretan fleet to set sail for Athens. Minos asked Egeus, who was the king of Athens, for his son's assassins, as if they were to be handed to him, the city would be spared. However, not knowing who the assassins were, King Egeus surrendered the whole city to Minos' mercy. Minos then demanded that at 9-year intervals, 7 Athenian boys and 7 Athenian girls were to be sent to Crete to be devoured by the Minotaur, who lived in the labyrinth created by Daedalus. So here we have a statue, a modern statue, which is located in Athens, of ancient Greek hero Theseus. On the third occasion, so after 27 years, so the first time, or rather after 18 years, because the first time was immediately afterwards, 7 boys and 7 girls were sent to Athens, and they were all devoured by the Minotaur. Then 9 years afterwards, the same thing happened. On the third occasion, Theseus, who was the son of Egeus, volunteered to talk to the monster to stop this quarrel. He took the place of one of the youths and set off with a black sail, promising to his father Egeus that if successful, he would return with a white sail. Like the others, Theseus was stripped of his weapons when they sailed. On his arrival in Crete, Ariadne, King Minos' daughter, fell desperately in love with Theseus, and on the advice of Daedalus, she gave him a ball of thread so he could find his way out of the labyrinth. That night, Ariadne escorted Theseus to the labyrinth, and Theseus promised very strongly that if he returned from the labyrinth, he would take Ariadne with him and he would marry her. That was the promise. Here you have from 1st century AD, a mosaic in Cremona, Villa della Via Cadolini, and you have at the center Theseus killing the Minotaur. As soon as Theseus entered the labyrinth, he tied one end of the bowstring to the doorpost and brandished his sword, which he had kept hidden from the guards inside his tunic. Theseus followed Daedalus' instructions given to Ariadne. Go forward, always down. We have to say something that is important. The labyrinth was not just a series of a very tortuous path, but it was also going downwards. Okay? It was completely obscure and going downwards. So the instruction was go forward, always down, and never left or right. Theseus came to the heart of the labyrinth and also upon the sleeping Minotaur. The beast awoke, and a tremendous fight then occurred. Theseus overpowered the Minotaur with his strength and stabbed the beast in the throat with his sword. Here you have a very interesting depiction of this event by Edward Burne-Jones. And you can see in the floor all the bones of the poor children and youngsters, Athenian youngsters, who had been devoured by the Minotaur. And here you have another depiction, terracotta neck amphora from 500 BC. And there you have Theseus with the Minotaur, and you see Ariadne just beside them. And here you have another one, a 6th century black figure pottery. Always when the figures are black, it is more ancient than when the figures are just rosish or rose. This is Theseus and the Minotaur, Theseus killing the Minotaur. And here you see, this is more recent because the figures are reddish. Attic red figure. This is a pelike attributed to Hermonax. You have from one side and from the other in early classical era, circa 470 BC. So what is interesting to see to the right, you can see how you have Theseus, who is grasping the Minotaur by the horn, and the Minotaur is taking a stone, and he wants to attack with a stone. But eventually, Theseus will kill the Minotaur. After decapitating the beast, Theseus used the string to escape the labyrinth. And he managed to escape with all of the young Athenians and Ariadne as well, as well as her younger sister Phaedra. Then he and the rest of the crew fell asleep on the beach of the island of Naxos, where they stopped on their way back to Athens, looking for water. And then Theseus abandoned Ariadne because he had fallen in love with Phaedra. But eventually, Dionysius will find Ariadne and marry Ariadne. It is said, moreover, that as they drew nigh the coast of Attica, Theseus himself forgot, and his pilot forgot. Eklathestai menauton, eklathestai de ton kybernetes, says Plutarch. Such was their joy and exultation to hoist the sail which was to have been the token of their safety to Aegeus, who therefore, in despair, apognonta, threw himself down from the rock, ripsai katates petras heauton, and was dashed in pieces. You can see here Aegeus watching for the ship slightly before committing suicide. We can say that Theseus is thus the delusion of success and infidelity. He is the man of false promises. He is the man of false commitments. And because of that, he was responsible of the death of his father and of the sorrow and near death of a would-be bride. We come to the last character of these very deep myth, Icarus, or the delusion of overambition. Minos imprisoned Daedalus himself in the labyrinth because he helped Theseus, the enemy of Minos, to survive the labyrinth and defeat the Minotaur. Daedalus fashioned 2 pairs of wings out of wax and feathers for himself and for his son Icarus. Daedalus tried his wings first, but before trying to escape the island, he warned his son not to fly too close to the sun, nor too close to the sea, but to follow his path of flight. Here we have a Roman mosaic from Zeugma, Comagene, depicting Daedalus. You have Daedalus to the right. It is the second character to the from the right, and then you have Daedalus. Sorry, and then you have Icarus, who is the last character to the right. And you also can see first on left Queen Pasiphae and 2 of her female attendants. Overcome by giddiness while flying, Icarus, who disobeyed his father, soared into the sky, trying to quench his thirst. His thirst, in fact, of power, of ambition. But he came too close to the sun, and without warning, the heat from the sun melted the wax, holding his feathers together. One by one, Icarus' feathers fell like snowflakes. Icarus kept flapping his wings, but he had no feathers left and was only flapping his bare arms. And then he fell into the sea and drowned. I like very much this painting of Peter Bruegel the Elder, because it is called the Fall of Icarus. But Icarus is almost not seen, he's just on the very end here. This is Icarus. But the whole painting is called the Fall of Icarus. And in fact, it is as, okay, he fell, but life is going on. People go on working. Ships go on sailing. Icarus is, in fact, the symbol of overambition. Again, a passion that is self-destructive, that has led him to death, despite being a promising youth. We can now reflect, after retelling this myth shortly, on the symbolism of the labyrinth. First of all, the labyrinth is completely ambivalent. There is an essential duality of the labyrinth, like the Minotaur, who is dual. Aesthetically, the labyrinth displays regular and symmetrical shapes. It could be seen as a symbol of the world, with a spiritual treasure enclosed in its center. But conceptually, the labyrinth symbolizes any indirect path, deception, or wandering, encompassing a danger. Herodotus tells us that the first labyrinth was built in Egypt in the Fayum region, to the south of Lake Moeris, by Amenemhat III during the Middle Kingdom. He says, the labyrinth is even more splendid, more interesting than the pyramids. For anyone who is imprisoned within its walls, the labyrinth amounts to a desperately unknown and dangerous place, a place where no one can see every corner. You cannot see every corner of the labyrinth because you don't know what is afterwards. So this is why it is full of danger. The labyrinth is an organized and well-designed space. Because of its symmetry, the person who enters it gets deeply confused and lost. The path is so regular that it lacks any reference point. You don't have any reference point. This is why you need the thread of Ariadne. The labyrinth leads us towards the center to meet there or fight with someone, and then forces us back to the exit. Thus, the labyrinth symbolizes the path of life, its trials, the quest of our destiny, which appears bit by bit behind each turn or change. Is the center of the labyrinth the place of fulfillment and reward after a long series of efforts, as it was for Theseus? Or else, is it the dangerous place to confront the unknown? There is always a mystery. The beauty of the labyrinth comes from its complexity. But when we are imprisoned within it, we only see darkness and enclosure. We cannot see its beauty unless we take a vantage point and watch it from above. Let us talk a little bit about the medieval reception of the labyrinth. The myth of the labyrinth was well known during the Middle Ages, thanks to Ovid, the Metamorphoses of Ovid, and thanks to Virgil, the Aeneid, the sixth song of the Aeneid. You have a depiction of a labyrinth. And even if most of the Greek literary texts were not known in Greek in medieval Europe, we have to wait till the times of the humanists to have most of the literary Greek texts to happen in Europe, in Western Europe. But the myth of the labyrinth was very well known during the medieval ages. And Isidore of Seville describes the different labyrinths of antiquity in his etymologies, and he quotes Plinius the Elder. Here you have at Coimbra, Portugal, a very beautiful labyrinth with the Minotaur in its center, 3rd century AD. A labyrinth, says Isidorus, is a structure with intricate walls, perplexis parietibus, of the kind made at Crete by Daedalus, where the Minotaur was shut in. If anyone should enter into it without a ball of twine, sine glomere lini, he would not be able to find a way out. This building is so situated that, for those who open its doors, a terrifying thunder is heard within. It slopes down more than 100 steps. Inside are images of monstrous effigies, innumerable passages heading every which way in the darkness, in partes diversas transitus in numili per tenebras, and other things done to confuse the way of those who have entered, ad errorem incredientium facta, so that it seems impossible to pass from its darkness to the light. And then he says that there are 4 labyrinths. First, the Egyptian, we talked about it. Second, the Cretan, the most well-known. The 3rd in Lemnos, the 4th in Italy. All were so constructed that not even the ages can destroy them. Look at this beautiful image in a Latin manuscript. And you see that during the early Middle Ages, the labyrinth appears in illuminations. Apollodorus mentioned that the Minotaur had a bull face and a human body. But in the Middle Ages, you could have the other way around. The body of a bull, and like here, the head of a human head. We find many labyrinths in churches. The most ancient one is from the 4th century, in the church of Orléansville, El Afram in Algeria, built upon the Roman villa of Castellum Tingitano. And it has a play on the letters of Sancta Ecclesia, with 1 C in the text. So you have Sancta Ecclesia, so the labyrinth, this labyrinth leads to the Sancta Ecclesia, to the Holy Church. First in Italy, 11th and 12th centuries, and then in France, 12th and 13th centuries, many churches display labyrinths. At Lux in Tuscany, we find the inscription, Hic quem elit Daedalus, est labyrinthus, de quonullus vadere quid intus, nisi Theseus gratis, Ariadne stamini jutus. So, these labyrinths this is the labyrinth that Daedalus from Crete made, and from it, nobody can get out if someone has entered, unless Theseus, who managed to get out because he got the help of Ariadne thread. Here is the Labyrinth of Luke that we were talking about, engraved upon a pillar at the entrance. Some of them are round, others are square. Here in France, we have, here is the labyrinth of the Cathedral of Chartres. In France, labyrinths are mainly found in churches' pavements. They are displayed in the main nave, and the entrance is facing the western portico, which is a symbol of shadows of death. But you go through the labyrinth to face the east. The pilgrim looks towards the east, where the Garden of Eden is located, according to the book of Genesis. One has to follow on one's knees the winding and sinuous labyrinth, as a penitent would follow the deceiving shadows of reality. Vixque ipse reverti ad linen potuit, tanta est fallacia tecti, says Ovid in his Metamorphosis. So, Daedalus himself was scarcely able to return to the Fresco. So great is the deceptiveness, fallacia, of the building. The fight of Theseus becomes a figure of Christ, victory upon sin. So, in the medieval labyrinths, instead of Theseus becoming the victor of Minotaur, you have Christ, who is who has to perform this victory upon sin, and he is right in the middle of the labyrinth. Thus, the labyrinth is like a substitute of the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Sometimes people went to confession, and the priest would say, "Okay, you can make your penance on this labyrinth." So they were making a kind of replica of the pilgrimage to Jerusalem on their knees and praying on the labyrinth until they got to the center. Here you have a very beautiful painting of the master of the Cassoni Campana, and you have Zeus and the Minotaur in the center of the labyrinth. And here you have an ancient depiction of the now destroyed labyrinth of the Cathedral of Reims. Why would this labyrinth, the one we have just seen, be octagonal? It could have been meant as a complementary feature to the baptismal font, which was located nearby. The traditional font, even today, is octagonal because 8 is a symbol. Symbolically, it points to Christ's resurrection on the 8th day. So we have the 7 days, and the 8th day, the first day of the week, is the day where Christ resurrected. So you have the baptismal fonts are octagonal. Therefore, the labyrinth in Reims seems to have been focused toward rebirth. The baptismal connection could also stem from another secondary source as well, for it was here that Clovis, first Christian king of the Franks, was baptized. As such, themes of baptism and rebirth would have had a significant meaning for this cathedral, and perhaps the labyrinth of Reims was a reflection of this momentous event in the French church history. I show it again. This is the octagonal labyrinth. A surviving account from the mid-14th century described an Easter ritual in Reims, which incorporated the labyrinth into the overall performance. The Easter rites of Reims demanded that the clergy arrange themselves in a long line extending from the great west door to the entry of the choir on the east, where the Lord hung on the cross of the rude stream. In their midst was the labyrinth. So disposed, the archbishop and his servants sang of the Israelite exit from hellish Egypt and of Christ's ultimate victory. Looking down this clerical line from east to west, the faithful could visualize the Lord's 2 great ordeals, his suffering on the cross and his trial on the hellish maze. And I will finish with a quote of Jean Anny. The labyrinth clearly appears. Jean Anny is really a very important author who has written on symbols. And I would strongly recommend the books of Jean Anny if you haven't read them. He's a very interesting thinker who has made very important contribution to the understanding of symbols. The labyrinth clearly appears to be a cosmic symbol, a microcosm, an image of the world. What counts in the figure is the center, identified with the center of the world to which the lines lead. And this is why in the Middle Ages, labyrinths were called roads to Jerusalem, the holy city necessarily being situated at the center of the world. In certain cases, the walking of the labyrinth took the place of the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, as we said before. And indulgences were attached to this practice, prove that it was taken very seriously. It involved nothing less than what is called the journey to the center, or the spiritual orientation of the being, of which pilgrimage is only an outward aspect. As a course directed to a consecrated center, pilgrimage is a victory over space and time, because its goal is ritually identified with the supreme goal, the supreme center, which is not other than God. And at lower levels, says Jean Anny, with the heavenly Jerusalem and the church. Left to himself, man is incapable of knowing himself. Like Dante, he is lost in the dark forest. To find himself, he needs Ariadne thread, which is none other than the concentric windings themselves, the entanglement of which is only apparent, since they are in fact made up of a continuous line, the thread of existence. Thus, the road to Jerusalem becomes a symbol of human life. Instead of being mere wanderers, we don't know where we are going to, we become pilgrims. We have a center. We know where we are going to. And this is Leugerfelder near Salzburg in Austria, 4th century AD, another mosaic on the labyrinth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Christophe. And now let us welcome Eyal Nahum, the coordinator of the Hebrew language department and Hebrew teacher at Polis.
I apologize, it's going to be slightly longer than planned. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
So it is very exciting for me to have the honor to congratulate this year's graduates. It's even slightly symbolic for me because I remember I was the teacher asked to congratulate the graduates of the very first class, which was back in 2014, 15, something like that. And this year I have the honor of congratulating the very first class, COVID class. Post-COVID. Unfortunately, COVID class, because I think you are the first class to have had most of the semesters online. And I find it, and I think I'm not the only one, I find it admirable. And I find it even more admirable that you didn't give up. For us teachers, it was not very convenient, but for students to follow more than 4 semesters on Zoom, this is not something to take for granted. And I would like also to thank the administrative staff, particularly Teresa. Yes. I think they've had hard times just as well. Teresa, Natalie, Buzo Dravenel, who else? Dalia. And last but not least, Maria. It's the lovely task of being in direct contact with the Ministry of Interior. So what you see is a list of the names of the graduates. And what I decided to do is, I hope, I mean, a bit more to do something a bit more personal, less banal, by dedicating verses from the Hebrew Bible to the students. Let's make a quiz. And see whether you can identify or understand why I chose this specific verse for each student. Right? But I would like to start first, number one, with 4 students who were never my students. So I don't really know them except for hello, shalom in the corridor. And yet they were also, they also deserve to get their own verse. So I will read it. By the way, all the verses are from poetic parts of the Bible. Okay? So the first one from Proverbs. You have the translation from the King James Bible. I'm not sure it's easier than the Hebrew. שלושה המה מטיבי צעד ו4 מטיבי לכת, לה איש גיבור בבהמה, ולא ישוב מפני כל זרזיר מותניים, חיש, ומלך על קום עמו. This is dedicated to the 4 students, Miguel Angel, Poli, Camille, and Tomaso. And I let you decide which one of you is the lion, which one is the rooster, which one is the eagle, and which one is the king. And now, Soraia, from the book of Amos. עושה חימה וכסיל והופך לבוקר צל מוות, ויום לילה החשיך, הקורא למי הים וישפכם על פני הארץ, אדוני שמו. Any idea? What this has to do with Soraia? With the name Soraia, it has to do with her name.
All right. First.
What is Pleiades? It's a constellation, right? And Chima is interpreted as the 7 sisters, Pleiades. Okay. Salinas. היאכל קפה מבלי מלח, אם ישתם בריר חלומות. Any idea? Melach, yes, Salinas, Melach. Okay. Jorge. עובד אדמתו יספע לחם, ומרדף ריקים יספע ריש. Jorge, עובד אדמה, עובד אדמתו יספע לחם. This is from Proverbs. Salinas verse was from Job. Silva, is Silva here? No. From Ezekiel. וחרתי להם ברית שלום, והשפטי חיי רעה מן הארץ, וישבו במדבר לבטח, וישנו ביערים. The best thing. יערים, Silvanus. Next, Chaos, from Isaiah. והשיבה שופטייך כבראשונה, ויועצייך כבתחילה, אחריכם יקרא לך עיר הצדק, קריה נאמנה. Caleb, right? Caleb. What is characteristic of a dog? Loyalty, right? Okay. Natan, who unfortunately is far from here. from Ecclesiastes. וראיתי את העניין אשר נתן אלוהים לבני האדם לענות בו, את הכל עשה יפה ואיתו, גם את העולם נתן בליבם, מבלי אשר לא ימצא האדם את המעשה אשר עשה אלוהים מראש ועד סוף. דליה, from Song of Songs. אני חבצלת השרון, שושנת העמקים, כשושנה בין הפוחים, כן רעייתי בין המנוע. חבצלת, שושנת העמקים, some identify the Shoshana as the Dahlia. By the way, starting from number 7, you can see that the verses become actually 2 verses. And they are dedicated to those particular students who never gave up on biblical reading. Not many of them. I thought they deserved the 2 verses instead of 1. So read. Huh? From Job, תחת צאלים ישכב, בסתר קנה וריצה, יסופוהו צאלים ציללו, יסובוהו ערבי נחל. Kane is read. And this is the, by the way, it's the description of the hem of Job. Okay. Marifa Rizal, she's not here, right? From Ezekiel. Aram, this might be slightly hard. אדם סוחרתך מרוב מעשייך, בנופך ארגמן ורקמה ובוץ ורמות וחדקות נתנו בעזבונייך, יהודה וארץ ישראל המה אוכלייך, וחיתם ימית ופנג ודבש ושמן מצורי נתנו מערבך. This is from his famous prophecy in Thailand. Anyone knows what Faruzai is? It's from Arabic, Turkish, Arabic. It's a precious stone, Fairuz, Faruzah, and it is again identified with the Nofech, which appears in this verse. Eugene, from Proverbs, בי מלכים ימלכו ורוזנים יחוקקו צדק, בי שרים יסורו ונדיבים כל שופטי צדק. Eugene. נדיבים כל שופטי צדק. שרים, נדיבים, רוזנים, מלכים. גנס, כן, טוב. And now to the 2 Johns, Johannes and John. So I let you decide which verse to take. So both are from Psalm. חונני אדוני כי אליך אקרא כל היום, שמח נפש עבדך כי אליך אדוני נפשי אשא. Second one, חונני אלוהים חונני כי לך חסיה נפשי. ובצל כנפיך יחסה עד יעבור החבות. וקרא לאלוהים היום לאל אומר עליי. And last but not least, definitely not least, Daniel from Psalm. דוד, שופטני אדוני כי אני בתומי הלכתי ובאדוני בטחתי לא אמעד. וחנני אדוני ונשני צורפה חיליותי לליבי. שופטני, כן, שופטני, דניאל, כן, דנני, שופטני. Okay, so this concludes my short speech. All the best wishes to you. You're very beautiful. And may you succeed in whatever you do.
Thank you, Eyal. And And now for the student's speech, presented by the second year student, Jorge Barosso.
Well, I have a lot of pressure right now because the last speech last year was Ubi's speech and was, according to the sources, the best speech ever in the history of Polis. So I'm sorry I'm going to lower the level this year. But I think I'm doing a favor for the next year student because it will be easier to read. So first of all, I want to thank Reed for making it possible the broadcast of the graduation, so that all our families can watch the graduation ceremony. And of course, Dalia and Maria for preparing all this. Christophe for your speech, for your lecture, and Eyal for your speech. And thanks all of you for being here, teachers and all the staff. Especially mention for Teresa, Maria, of course, Natalie, Saya, and Ravenel, who made possible for us to stay here because of the prices, the visas. They only know how hard it was to get the visas last year. So thanks to them, we are almost all of the students here. So thank you very much. And of course, thank you all my classmates and my friends for maintaining the hope last year and for maintaining the hope for studying the second year of the master. And of course, thank you all of the people who are in the Zoom. I don't know how many are there, but I remember that the first time I heard about Polis was in 2013, during my first year at college, almost 9 years ago. I learned that time that there was a place, a magic place, that one can learn Latin and Greek, speaking and writing. So I went to YouTube and to see if it is real or not. And I watched the videos of Christophe saying and asked it, "El te jode." I didn't doubt to come to Polis, and I didn't realize that Polis was only 2 years old at that time, 2013. And I thought that it was an established institute with the complete method development. And I did not hesitate to come. Now I'm sure, after 2 years here at Polis, that I made the best decision back in 2013. A couple months ago, I read a sentence from a contemporary philosopher. Yes, I read philosophy. He says, the hardest thing for a teacher is to create a family during the whole academic course and then leave it every single year. That happens at Polis. I think the staff is very get used to hear that Polis is like a family. But I say Polis is a family. And you, the teachers and the staff, you promote this atmosphere, which is real. And I'm not being polite or something, it's true. That kind of atmosphere you can feel every day. Even in Zoom, I say. Really. It is hard to leave a family, as this philosopher says. It's really a heartbreaking. But what? John Thuppayath, before went back to India, said to me, well, this is not the end. it is just the beginning. And I do need to believe him. My friends, we are the family of 2022. The generation after COVID, the survivors. We may not be the best because our first year was on Zoom, okay, but we are here and I'm very proud of you. And in this family, we have so many people, very different people. In every family, there is a clever boy, the one who has taken the intelligence of the whole family for himself. Daniel Suárez Landívar, of course. The worst of all is that he's humble. And there is always, in every family, the artist, the musician, Nicholas. But within the family, we call him Salinas. By the way, he asks the most original and tricky questions to Tanya Reuven about literature. We have the responsible brother who finds time to attend classes, to study, and to teach. And in the last few months, to take care of his wife, and now to raise a child, a beautiful child. And he has, and you can find in his face always a smile. So, Eugene, please tell us your secrets. But talking about smile, there is always in the family the one who is kind to every brother and sister, who is always in a good mood and has a smile on her eyes and a pleasant conversation with everyone. This is none other than Soraia, of course. And do you know this guy who makes good friends with everybody? This is Johannes. He can make friends everywhere in the filters. Do you have a Mediterranean blood or something? Are you really from Netherlands or from Brazil, for example? Don't forget the indispensable one. This is the one who knows everything about computers and solves every problem. Do you remember when we used to fix the TV by hitting it decades ago? I'm 27, so I remember. And if that didn't work, the only solution was to call the expert. Always there to help Reed Miller. And he's also discreet, very discreet. But there is always the discreet par excellence. The one who is always there, but does not want to draw attention to himself, who observes and listens more than he speaks. And when he speaks, he always does wisely. Miguel Ángel. There is a very similar profile, but it has the last update. Perhaps this kind of sibling does not exist in all families, but fortunately we have. It is possible to find a person who absolutely never creates a conflict among the siblings, who avoids fights and discussions, even the smallest ones. It is impossible for this person to be mad and rude to anyone. Have you ever seen Holy James? A bit angry or upset with anyone. Again, I tell you, tell us your secret, Polly. Maybe it's in your name. And yes, there is the one who is always willing to help others in their studies. She does the most beautiful class notes in the family. And she shares with the others these class notes without asking for it. She reminds the homework to do. So by the way, it's very interesting sometimes. And she shares always lists of vocabulary. Eternal gratitude to you, Dalia, our support. And how to forget the brother who is sometimes, or maybe always, in other world, the dreamer, the kid for whom the world is a big playground. Yes, it's Camilo. I usually imagine Camilo in a battlefield, playing around and speaking with Miguel Angel in ancient Greek, while the bullets are passing by without any damage. And what about this one who always finds a way to be agreed with you? The man of endless patience. In addition, he has stolen the hive that I was supposed to receive, me and the rest of the short people. I'm talking about Kate, of course. Have you met this who knows the most random facts? Is the Wikipedia itself with legs. There is always one of that kind on the families. Where did he got such a memory, Silva? And the guy who loves to go to school and learn everything. He was enrolled in all the elective courses, as it wasn't enough to learn Palestinian Arabic, modern Standard Arabic, and modern Hebrew. And you will never see him in a hurry, or you will always see him quiet and calm. Our Italian Thomas. And last but not least, my goodness, this family is huge. We even have these brothers who went abroad when we were just children. And only we have good memories of them. Natan, and of course, Thuppayath. Thuppayath, we miss you so much. We will have loved to have you here with us today. And we wish you all the best, to you and to all the people you love. My dear friends, now you are going back home. I'm staying. We are not the same people that came here less than 10 months ago. Some of us, we are totally different right now. And not because of the place, the Holy Land for many of us. Not because we learned Greek, Arabic, or Hebrew with total physical response methods. What makes these 2 years unique and special is you, my friends. And I dare to say that most of you think the same. The biggest gift of these 2 years has been to be with you and learn so much from you. If God asked me, Jorge, what do you prefer? To go to Polis when you finish your degree in 2018? Or to wait until you meet the best people and your best friends ever? You can imagine my answer, right? I beg you, my dearest friends, when you return home, to carry with you the name of Polis with pride and honor. Say aloud, with no shame, I studied at Polis. and you, my teachers, and the rest of it. This sentence I said before is not from a philosopher. I read it on Twitter. But I wanted you to take it seriously because it's true. Imagine Polis through the years. This summer we are extending to Tel Aviv. What in the next 10 years? I only asked one thing to the Polis of the future. Please, Polis, however great you may be in the future, I beg you to remain as a family. My friends who remain next year with me, I will see Carlos, my son, mothers, Georgina, Stephen, and Philip. Please keep the flame alive with the help of the other teachers. And finally, I would ask you, before the end of the speech, not to applaud my speech or myself, but applaud yourselves. Applaud your effort all these 2 years, the COVID and the post-COVID years, for not allowing Polis to die. Applaud Polis and applaud these guys, this family you created. Farewell, friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jorge, for the beautiful speech. I would like to ask Professor Christophe to honor us with distributing the gifts to the students and Teresa, please. Thank you. The graduates from the 2-year program in Ancient Philology, Daniel Suárez, Salinas Hasbun, Jorge Barosso, Eugene Cunningham, Soraia Tabaio, Johannes Matthijsse, Miller, graduates from the 2-year program of Near Eastern Languages, Holy James, Daniel Nahum, graduates from the Fluency in Ancient Greek, Miguel Angel Acosta, graduates from the second language teaching the Labyrinth Mythology, Camille Demoshi, graduates from the 1-year program of Ancient Philology, Suárez, and the graduate from the 1-year program of Near Eastern Languages, Tommaso Fontanelli. Congratulations, everyone. We would like to invite all the graduates to take the group photo in classroom 1, please. And our guests are welcome to the reception in the patio, and then the graduates can follow. Okay? So we just want to have a picture.
I would like to accept. I would like to thank Daria and Maria for organizing this year graduation party, because I think it was the year when it was most beautifully organized. Thank you so much.